From the deepest part of the Doing family's heart, I want to express our sincere gratitude for each and every one of you that have come to be with us, to grieve with us, to celebrate with us tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, right? As we remember this clever and witty, adventurous dude that left his mark on each one of our lives in his own artistic way, wove us together in a tapestry that has brought us all here now. In a few moments, I want to have mostly family come up and share stories of Jarad and friends. And as you guys know, many of you here will have very many of the same kinds of stories that you'll hear. But we just want to take a moment just to kind of put up, a canvas and just put a couple images on there so that you can feel the impression and we can honor this gift of God that we had in Jarad, who enriched our lives, caused us to think and push the boundaries of where we were. Teach us how to have fun. So, as I think about Jarad, my introduction to Jarad, I had come back from Kansas City. And I was in a very, very dark place myself and recovering from something. And quickly, Jarad and I became friends. We ministered together. We laughed together. We wrote music together. And if anything, my brother-in-law, who eventually he became, who was not very happy that I had married his sister, he poured into my life and pushed me towards excellence. Like, I would create a thing. He's like, just take it one more level. Come on, Paul. Let's add this star, this nuance to it. And it always made it better than what it was. Everything he touched. And so, as I bring the family up here, we're going to set the tone tonight to be one of where we remember the gift that he was to us and how he impressed on us. So, without further ado, actually, I'm going to invite Sean Everly up first to speak. One of Jarad's best friends. Thank you, Sean, for taking the time.
So, this is going to be pretty hard for me. I'm going to be short. Most of you know who I am. My name is Sean Sune. Most of us have nicknames. Jarad and I have been inseparable for like 30 years or more. It's been a long time. I've been with him through all the great times and the hardest. He's my brother. Jarad played well with the universe. You know that light, the fire, the spark that you see in everybody's eyes when you're talking to them one-on-one? I see it, I call it the universe, and Jarad had it all the time. It was never gone. When you get a group of people together, it's hard sometimes to see that spark still. People aren't as vulnerable as they were when they're one-on-one. Jarad had it all the time. The universe was always staring back at me when I talked to him. For the plot. Isn't that what the kids are saying nowadays? It's so true. Jarad lived for the plot, loved the plot. We went so many places, we had so many adventures. I didn't even know any of the share. I'm going to share one right now, though, that most of you have heard. We were in Canada. I let him navigate. Because he was terrible at it, and it made for the best adventures. I said, which way are we going, Jarad? He's like, that way. I said, which way is that? He said, south. And I said, I don't think that's south, Jarad. He put a compass rose on the ceiling of the car. North, south, west, or east. And he said, see, south. I said, what if I turn? It's still south. We ended up on an island. We had no idea where we were. It was great. It was wonderful. I never let him drive, though. He was even worse at that. Jarad was a tormented soul and a happy one. He was an artist, a parent, a friend, a brother, a son. And he never lost his ability to be a kid. That's the best thing. That's the best part. We're all just kids, pretending we're grown up. He didn't want to pretend. Jarad hated pretending. He found ways to strangle the kid in him so he could try to fit in. Because that's what he felt he had to do in this human experiment, this matrix. Jarad was always vulnerable, and that was my favorite part about him. He shared his inner thoughts and often acted on them immediately. There was the universe. He was playing. This matrix wasn't good enough for Jarad. It was not good enough for any of us. But Jarad saw it in his own way. We made a lot of art together, Jarad and I. Music was my favorite. There's a song we wrote together and recorded along with lots of others. It's actually playing over there on the computer. I didn't like that song. He loved it. It was his favorite. And now when I listen to it, I can't help but cry. I absolutely love it. Some of the lyrics of that song, he knew 20 years ago something wasn't right. The words resonate with me so hard. I hope you guys hear them too. I have just begun to see the way that you have tainted my potential with your prophecies and compromise. The very fact that I have lived to see a third of a lifetime comes as a surprise. There are a lot of systems in our society that hold us back from our potential. Here's one. I'm not going to say what it is. You all know what it is. If you do know what it is, you'll know what it is. Jarad was the only man that I could hold and say, I love you, without ending in a back pat or two and a bro or a well-placed man afterwards. That's what it's about. That's what this life is about, love. The universe wants love. It seeks love, is love. Just like us. Because we are the universe. Jarad, I love you so much. Always have, and always will.
Eden, you want to go next?
Yes. I truly and honestly wish that the story I was about to tell you was one for when he was still here. Many of you know me, some of you don't, but I think all of you can tell that I'm young. And that's really the one thing that connects every person. All of us are either young or have once been. I've been young my entire life, so I can tell you I have a lot of experience with it. The hardest part about being young is that everyone tells you that you think you know everything. And so when you know something, you don't know if you know it because you're young or if you just think it. Because of this, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. So I'm not going to tell you this as if it's fact, just that it's what I believe, and that I hope you'll at the very least hear me out. When I was a kid, I went to Sunday school. One day in Sunday school, our teacher told us all a story. She said our parents were far from perfect. Sometimes they made us do things we didn't want to do, or didn't let us do the things we did. She also told us that if we were put in a room with every person on the planet and were allowed to pick any two people to be our parents, we would pick the ones we already had. For young me, that was profoundly wrong. I thought there was no way that out of everyone ever, no two people would be better parents. Which, I think it would have been a lot better for me if she would have explained what she meant. Obviously, what she meant is that it didn't matter if our parents were always perfect. They were doing what was best for us, because they knew us better than anyone else. Which is what she meant. It's not always true. And I wish I would have realized that she was wrong about the why, but she wasn't wrong about the fact that we would choose them. The saddest part is that she was entirely right, but she wasn't entirely wrong. Our parents aren't perfect, and I know that. I know it very well, but By God, if everyone else in the entire planet was in a room and I could pick two people, I would pick him again. So, what I tell you is please don't wait for your parents to be perfect. It isn't going to be happening. It's not going to happen. So don't wait. Just be happy that they're yours. Because I'm happy they're not perfect. And I'm so happy that he was my dad. And still is. And still always will be. I love him so much. And I will miss him as long as I can. Thank you for listening.
Ava, would you like to come up?
Stand in front.
Come up front. Yeah, perfect. Right there. Here, hold the mic. You got it.
So, I wanted to share a story with my dad. Words. So, I don't know. So, once he made me one. I think he made my siblings one too, but yeah. It's so nice to have good memories with him. Everyone has good memories, everyone has bad, but in times like this, every memory is good. And now
You're laughing because you're right. You're right.
I know. And there's one thing I've always wanted to know, but I don't know. Is he a wizard?
Definitely a wizard.
Yeah, he's definitely a wizard. But yeah.
Yes.
Man, they are a hard act to follow. If Paul said anything correctly, and he said a lot correctly, it was that my dad never forgot how to be a kid. And this one memory comes to me. Please keep in mind, I do not have a speech prepared. He took us into the car, and we just went for a drive. We were just driving around Warren Center. He really liked driving with that direction. And we stopped, and we went into the woods. One of his favorite places. He taught me how to love nature. He taught me how to see things that weren't there. He taught me to use my imagination. And he told us a story about moss people. He told us about the moss people that lived in the trees. And he told us about all of the magical things. And those are the things that I will hold with me forever. And I will look at the trees, and I will remember that my favorite color is green, because he taught me how to enjoy the life that surrounds me. And every day I will look at every single plant, and I will look at the clouds, and I will think, he saw beauty in everything, regardless of how normal it seemed. And I will always think of the moss people that he told me about, and I will always think of the fairy door that he gave Ava. And I will always, always remember that the magic that he believed in, true or not, is still magic, and I will hold that in me forever. Because he was a magical person, and he had his downs, but boy did he have his ups. He taught me how to love wholeheartedly. And if he taught me anything, it is to hold my family close, to love them, and to protect them. And to never, ever stop seeing the good that they bring into my life. He taught me that I can learn a lot, not just about the good in people, but also learn from everything that anyone I see does wrong. And he's never going to leave. He will always be with us. And I'm never going to forget him. And I will look at my sister, and I will see his creativity, and I will see his stories, and I will see them live on in her. and I see my brother, and I see him, and I see all of the love and care and protectiveness he had for us. And I see his brilliance. He loved math, and he loved science, and I can see that in Canaan. And he loved theater, and he loved art, and I can see that in Eden and in Ava. And he loved all of us. And he loved art, and he loved color, and I will carry that with me, and I will carry it on. And I will always make art and remember him. I will hear music and think of the notes that he sang. I will see the guitar that he has passed on to my sister, and I will hear him in every song and every word that she writes. I will see my mother, and I will see that he cared. I will see Jen, and I will see that he cared. And I will see Ava, and I will see her sing, and I will see her grow. And I will see my siblings graduate college and find jobs and fall in love, and I will remember him. And I will say, you could not be here, but I will, and I will make these memories, and I will hold them with me forever. And one day, I will see his parents, and I will know that you raised the best son that you ever could have. And I will see all of the beauty that you hold in your home, and I know that you love us, not just because we came from him, but because we are yours, and you hold us, and you care for us, and you protect us, and you teach us, and you love us, and that means more than anything in the world. And I see his sisters, and I see that he might not have always been the best brother or parent, but boy did we love him, and he loved us, and if he would have done anything in the world to be here, he would have done anything to protect us and save us from hurt. He would punch anyone that hurt any of us. And he has said that repeatedly. And now I will carry that. And if anyone hurts my family, they will pay for it. And I know that my brother stands with me in this, that if anyone hurts our sisters, we will be there. And I know that sometimes you cannot take vengeance for hurt, but the best thing you can do is just be there and hold them and comfort them, and that is what I will do.
So for anyone here who could possibly not know who I am, I'm Jarad's mom. That's M-U-M, because even I got a nickname. I just want to share a little bit about what it was like to be his mom. And yes, he was born in a snowstorm out of town on Christmas Day. There are some very different stories floating around the family on how I got to the hospital, one of them being on my uncle's snowmobile. I can't necessarily remember that's how that happened, but I do know that the staff at the hospital was not happy to see me on Christmas. But the doctor did eventually show up and rushed things as much as he could, and we had a beautiful baby boy. Got his name in the paper the next day. Fitting, right, for Jarad? He was already famous. He was a very easy child, very content. He had the cutest little rosebud lips, and he slept wonderfully, which is a good thing because his Nana babysat when I went back to work. Nana being Helen, Mars, Ma, however you want to say it, guys, but for us it was Nana. And she made him chicken soup and little pasties, and he slept through her soaps. He was very content to play by himself. And by the age of 2.5, he could spell the word exit and recognize it at every door. I think maybe a little too much Sesame Street. But he did start reading very early, and I recognized that because he was reading the cereal boxes, because I would change brands. And he was reading the road signs and the advertisements. And I was like, this child is reading. So I went right out and got a homeschool program, and we did it in 6 weeks. He absolutely loved to read. He could mimic sounds, and he had a photographic memory, which was a benefit until he could read your credit card number once and never forget it. And your phone card number when he had friends in Quebec to talk to. He grew up in the countryside of Warren Center. The community playground, the phone call, meet me down at the community building. And I have to mention the saw graders, so if you want to know what that is, ask him and Greg, because that was pretty fun. Secret, they really thought they were spies. He excelled at school. He was in the gifted program. Thankfully, there was enough other kids that tested in Pennsylvania to be in the gifted program. They had to hire a special teacher called Mrs. Charlesworth. He could test out of class and go down to her classroom. And he did test out of every class and go down to her classroom and learn all kinds of interesting, fun things. He won science fairs by preparing the weekend before. Yeah. He won spelling bees. Second in the state with the gift of a dictionary the size of a house. And he read it. He read everything he could get his hands on. And I'm pretty sure there's some library books that are overdue that I'm going to have to try to find and return. Everything seemed to come very easy for him. I didn't understand because I took pride in every accomplishment. I had no idea the weight he carried, the pressure to perform and to do better. I didn't understand that it was what made him feel different and not fit in. He took piano lessons, but I'm pretty sure he never learned to read music. He just played by ear. And then he moved on to the guitar, which led him to steal Chris and Sean from the worship team and create their own band. First Branch, then Losing Faith, and I went to all the gigs, even when I didn't understand the lyrics. And when he graduated Northeast, he was appointed to West Point. It was a place he had picked when he was in second grade. His aunt took him on a very special tour that she arranged. And he was determined to go there, even when his own counselors told him that that was a very slim possibility. And he did it straight out of high school. He even excelled there. He had poetry published. He was in a show, the star of the show. He won awards. I don't know if some of you saw back there, but he actually won awards. But it wasn't a good fit for him. He started to struggle with some of the ideas of going to war. He couldn't reconcile aiming at a 12-year-old. He couldn't live with that. So he left and he came home and he started over again. But by then he had been introduced to alcohol. There's a lot of different ideas out there and theories about alcoholism or alcohol abuse disorder or whatever you want to call it. I believe that it can be a genetic predisposition of a disease. He had a father who was an alcoholic. He had 4 grandparents that were alcoholics and several great-grandparents. We warned him over and over, 1 drink, and this could be it. And it was. He started struggling, and then when his brother died, he went into a very, very dark place. And he used that as an excuse to numb all of his pain. We watched as he spiraled, and then he'd resurface, and then he'd spiral back. It was hard on the family. We always hoped that he would beat it someday. But we had to set boundaries to protect ourselves and our family. We walked a tightrope between not enabling and making sure that he knew that he was loved and there was somebody there for help. We really believed that he would one day come back to the man that he was created to be. Recently, he had begun to scare us, really scare us. And we knew that he was in trouble and risking his life. He had gotten into a very difficult relationship. I will call it domestic abuse because it was. He started documenting it on his phone. It was to the point of being tactically cruel. And he wanted out. We were supposed to get together one day, and he dodged me. And I was worried. So I called mental health and asked for a wellness check. And the cops went up to check on him. He was trying to detox on his own, which is dangerous. But they couldn't do anything. He didn't want to go to rehab. And he did get sober. He did. And we started having lunch on a regular basis. And he started telling me about the changes he was planning to make. He knew that he was in a physical and abusive relationship. He understood why I called for help, because he had to do it. Even after she was charged with domestic violence, he thought he could help her. He thought he was strong enough. But he was talking about owning the hurt that he had caused all of you, of rebuilding the relationships that he had hurt. He was making a plan to get away and start over. So I don't know what happened between 11:30 on Monday when he came downstairs with a plate of ginger snaps that he had made and 5 o'clock. Something terribly went wrong. And now we have his gift of art and his love for one another. Loving an addict is hard. Watching him slowly slip away was excruciating. Knowing he felt trapped was maddening. We did everything we could. He had people all around him willing to reach out. And that doesn't mean we stop. We don't stop reaching out. We don't stop offering a way. I don't believe we're meant to be on this journey alone. We get to share different parts with each other. And I look around this room and I see so many of you that got to share parts of Jarad's life. And I'm grateful for all of you. I am grateful. And I want to thank you for being here for us, because this is hard. This is a mother's worst nightmare. And I'm living it for the second time. But I will get through it, because I was given such a beautiful gift. And I have such a beautiful family. So thank you for being with us, because I need you.
When I was thinking about speaking, I really wished I didn't go. Wished I didn't go in this route. Jarad's extraordinary life. Those of you that know me and know Jarad, we couldn't be further apart. We couldn't be further different than one another. He was like night, I was day, right? He came alive at night. He came alive like in the late afternoon, evening. I was not. I was up early. I was one of those annoying people that when I'm up, I'm talking. Let's go, let's do it, right? And my wife would have to say, I haven't even had a drink of coffee yet. Don't talk to me. Okay, so I spent a lot of years getting up farming, a lot of years getting up baking, so mine was early and his was late. But we had love. Politics, not a word. We left that subject out. Okay, so that was not what we were working on. Work ethic. He told me one day, he goes, Dad, that's one thing I got from you, is that work ethic. And I go back to the times where in the early days we heated our house with wood. So we cut a lot of wood, split a lot of wood. Well, you know, he would break the handle on purpose just so he didn't have to do it. He really thought he was getting away with something when he wasn't. I started having extra handles on hand to put on there fairly quickly so that he could finish his work. But he was the kind of kid that would just look at something, and a job that would take like a half hour, he would do in 3 hours. He had to figure out a different way to do it than just to get in there. I'm one of those, I just jump in, get it done, it's done, and I'm off doing something else. But no, he had to think about how he could do it easier or different. And it used to drive me crazy. It used to just drive me crazy. One time I told him, I said, move that stack of wood over there, and then I did the army thing and say, okay, now move it back. I was just so mad one day, right? In the early days of where we worked together, I kind of thought that conformity was the way to go. If you know who I am, I am an ordained minister. I do believe in God with all my heart. I see him as my Savior. But I thought conformity was the way to go. And I couldn't have been more wrong. The uniqueness that comes from all of us that are here today is such a beautiful thing. He loved the outdoors. I loved the outdoors. We loved it for different reasons, mind you. I enjoyed hunting. He did not. One time we were hunting, and I took all my kids hunting, and we'd walk through the woods and push the deer, right? Well, one time he was in there, and I was near him, you know, the next person down, so to speak, and he got afraid and shot two shots in the air, just to make sure we knew where he was. So it was kind of one of those things that, okay, it's not for him, right? It wasn't for him. But that was okay. We still had love. He was a chef, a very good one. The things that he could do with spices and putting them together and different things was just awesome, right? I was a baker, okay? Usually if you're a baker or a chef, you don't do the other one that well. So again, we were different from one another, but we still had love. Mechanically, I could fix cars. He could not. He could barely, drive cars. When you wreck your parents' car twice in 6 months, you kind of get smart and say, okay, maybe this isn't for him. He was artistic. I was not. Carpentry. I could build things. He could build art, but not carpentry. Writing. Encouraged him so many times. Continue your writing. The beautiful things that he could do with words. When it was time for me to get a job or to need something, I would go to him for, hey, I need some words, right? I need some words. And he would just bring out this ornate, beautiful stuff. And I said, you got to dumb that down a little bit. You're talking about me, right? I can't get this past. His poetry. I've enjoyed reading that. The one we found on his computer just continued to break my heart. It was the one that he said, never be it. Sometimes I think, with the life that we had, that he could never be what somebody else wanted him to be. He needed to be who he was. And as we make mistakes as parents and guardians and things like that, the best thing that we could do is learn from our mistakes. The best thing we could do is allow our children and grandchildren to be who God made them to be. I think it was Aos that talked about the Moss people, right? I thought I was a pretty good storyteller till Jarad came along. I had a fairly good imagination. I could make up these people too. But boy, when he said it, it was just so much better. But we had love. And we had respect. We were not alike in so many ways. But I know he loved me. I know he respected me for who I was. So when you see so much from this end to this end, and I see that out here now, and I'm looking at how he brought that together today. He brought people from different worlds together today. So, being a preacher, of course, I go to the Bible for some thoughts and hopefully some peace, right? So I started reading Ecclesiastes. If anybody knows what Ecclesiastes is, and it's probably not the place to go, right? Because everything's vanity. You know, everything's vanity. This is vanity, that's vanity. Whatever I do on this earth, I can't take it with me. It's vanity. But I found something that is still intriguing me. It says in Ecclesiastes 7:14, it says, when times are good, be happy. When times are good, be happy. But when times are bad, consider this. God has made the one as well as the other. Therefore, no one can discover anything about their future. So I think about the life that we've walked, and the second son that we've lost. And what would I have done if I knew this was my future? I can't tell you what I would have done. I don't know what I had done. The Bible also says to bear one another's burdens. And you here today has so helped our hearts. Your heart's broken, our heart's broken. And when we could talk about the things that he was and the man that he was and just the artist and the poet and all those things, it really, sharing the grief has helped. Sharing the joy and the wonderful things that he did has helped. I ask you this. I ask you that in the days to come, when all of this is over, right, that you think about us, that you pray for us, that you think about his children. Don't let that go. Because when things quiet down, that's when the pain's the worst. And the loneliness, that's it. The new life that you just walked into has to go on. So that is my challenge to you here, to remember my precious grandchildren, my wife, my daughters. And I ask you just to remember those things.
Jarad and Sarah. Jarad and Sarah. 2 years older than me, so similar in size, we were occasionally mistaken as twins in our youth. And it's as if we were twins, we shared a link that seemed to defy the confines of this physical plane. Our lives interwove, intersected, and despite time and distance, had a way of running parallel. Right from the beginning, Jarad took on his role as older brother with fervor, the protector, the defender, the caretaker. He walked me to my classroom every day, from kindergarten through 2nd grade. I don't ever remember asking him to, he just did it, and I loved him for it. Eventually, a teacher told us I was probably capable of walking by myself. I was, but that had long ago ceased to be the point. Jarad and I did a lot together. The places that we went were usually as a pair. Painfully shy as a child, new places, new people flooded my system with anxiety. I could never imagine being in front of you right now. I would have been red. Jarad seemed to know this and understand, so he always made sure he entered the room with me, and that I acclimated before he took off to make the rounds. At school dances, he entered the dance circle first, then bringing me in to show off our amazing jazz star lift we learned in jazz class. As we aged, his distracted brain gave me a role as a caretaker, helping him to remember the things that he needed, where he was supposed to be. We did a lot of taking care of each other. I guess you could say we were each other's first codependent relationship. On the rare occasion when my parents left us kids at home, they instructed us to listen to Jarad, as he was the oldest and by default the one in charge. But my mom would discreetly circle back to me and tell me I was really in charge. Because when overwhelmed, Jarad was less level-headed, more reactive, and impulsive. I brought a level of calm and cooperation to the situation, which was especially true the day that my younger brother, Luke, pulled a large speaker down on top of his head and yashed it open. Jarad went into panic mode at the sight of blood. I went into crisis management mode, and I calmly and firmly gave him some direction. You apply pressure, I'll go get help. Together we figured it out. We created this dynamic. He would react, and then I soothed his emotion, which I was really good at. And then together we strategized. But to be honest, he was never really good at listening to my ideas. He was determined to be captain of his own ship. In high school, we had a few classes together. In one of them, we sat next to each other, and that was a big mistake. He would read a novel during class while I took meticulous notes. I would stay up for hours studying for the exam, and he chatted with girls. And while we took the exam, he'd finish literally within minutes. I'd watch him, he'd be done, and I'm like taking every moment I can. And then he always came away with a better grade. At the time, I could only see how easy it was for him. All of those accolades, the rewards, it seemed like he could do nothing but have success. And it opened up all sorts of opportunities for him. But what was so much harder for me to see at the time was that trap of perfection and the burden of expectations that weighed so heavily on him. When he started dating, I had not just one, but 3 of my friends confiding in me about their feelings of love for him, simultaneously. I drew the line there. I did not want to be involved, and I certainly didn't want a front row seat to my friend's heartbreak. The heartbreak was inevitable because he was always good at falling in love, just not staying in love. That took a little bit more vulnerability than he seemed to be able to tolerate. The miraculous thing was that no one ever stayed mad and almost always remained Jarad's friend. There was never a shortage of those who loved and cared for him. And while it seemed easy for him to give love to others, it seemed much harder for him to give love to himself. It was in the same year that both of our life plans went off track. Tracks that in hindsight maybe shouldn't have been set for us. Jarad came back from West Point and I was trying to figure out my next step. Both of us felt a deep sense of failure. Failure to our parents, failure to God, and we dealt with it in very different ways. I found solace in a career while he explored his passion in music. Both of us struggled to find our own paths amid weighted expectations. And it wasn't long before we surrendered into traditional norms, conforming, as my dad would say. we committed more earnestly to the religious constructs that we thought would help us win back the love, respect, and sense of belonging that we so desperately craved. And man, we followed our script's 100% commitment. Jarad 10xing his with a Nazarite vow. He was always with the flair, that one. Yet the night that our younger brother Luke died, the religious constructs we each had broke. Jarad punched a wall, and I silently screamed at the cold night sky. It was a catalyst in both of our lives. While he explored the meaning of life, he found ways to numb the pain. While I explored, I found therapy and self-help. And while not necessarily out of touch in each other's lives at this point, Jarad and I rarely shared the same circles anymore. And I often reflect on that time period, wondering how I could have stayed more connected with him. I know at the time he felt I was judging him, abhorring his behavior. I wasn't. I understood it. I understood his pain, and I always understood that pain. But loving someone struggling with alcoholism requires some really hard choices. My way of caring for him was to show up for his children as much as I could. Something I think that he both appreciated and at times resented. After stretches of time away from each other, we'd spend a day, a weekend, sometimes longer, hanging out again. We discovered the parallels in our journeys, reflecting on the growth and the change. We'd share insights from the books we were immersing ourselves in, bond over music, both old and new, and delve into some really profound discussions around religion, spirituality, and this beautiful experience of what it means to be a human. Our time always included some type of culinary adventure. It was Jarad, after all. And it concluded with me making sure that he was safely tucked away somewhere before his last drink carried him off. I always left feeling the bittersweet mix of gratitude and concern. A few years ago, Jarad asked me what it was like to have him as a brother. I shared that when things were good, it was like being surrounded by sunshine, warm, safe, and empowering. Then, inevitably, the light would be taken away, leaving it cold, dark, and lonely. The shifts from feeling appreciated and respected to suddenly feeling insignificant were part of these reoccurring cycles. Although I learned not to take them personally, I nevertheless grieved the brother I once had and wished for. Reflecting on it now, I don't believe those cycles were isolated to me and others he was in a relationship with. I think that they were cycles he experienced within himself as well. When life became really dark for me back in 2019, Jarad was part of my support group. He was a safe person I could be honest with about how dark it was and how incredibly hard it felt to move forward. He never made me feel ashamed, as he knew the struggles all too well himself. I had set up a little system with both of my siblings, Rebecca and Jarad. All I had to do was text 2 words. It's dark. One, if not both, would almost immediately get in touch with me, just letting me know that I wasn't alone and that we just needed to get through to the next moment. And our little system worked for me. I am quite sure it saved my life. Occasionally, Jarad would send me a similar text when he was in the dark, and I'd reciprocate. Just get through to the next moment. You are not alone. Through extensive therapy and support, I found healing, finally developing that inherent sense of self-worth I had spent my life without. My experience filled me with hope that Jarad could find the same. We talked about it intensely at times. Every time, he'd look me in the eye and with utmost sincerity say, I'm gonna do things differently. I'd hold his gaze and affirm, I believe you can. I'd come to know how stacked the odds were against him. Through my healing journey and my professional involvement with mental health, I gained some insights. Surrounded by a wide network of therapists, it was inevitable that my concerns for Jarad would come up. Feeling helpless, I searched for solutions, yet the consensus remained the same. That's a really difficult situation. I wouldn't say that they were devoid of hope, but it wasn't exactly inspiring. And then this past September, it became undeniably clear that Jarad is losing his battle with alcoholism. I wasn't in attendance at the party because I was in Minneapolis, yet I heard the details through very worried friends. The friend I was visiting in Minneapolis happened to be a therapist who worked in drug and alcohol treatment. As she was processing this latest event with me, she shared this. I work with a lot of children and parents who have struggled with substance abuse. They feel frustrated by the choices their parents make, and they'll ask, if they really loved me, why don't they stop abusing? But it's not that simple. Substance abuse quite literally changes the brain, leaving someone without the ability to choose anymore. As true as I know that to be, it is so hard to accept, considering how hard Jarad fought to break away from the feeling of being imprisoned. He stood on the principle that one should have freedom of choice. He resisted subscribing to anyone else's expectations and perceptions of the way life should be. He was the first one to champion anyone leaning into their own autonomy and claiming their own voice. He couldn't break free from all that he struggled with, yet he certainly did his best in his strong moments to help others. In the ebb and flow of Jarad's journey, I find myself standing at the intersection of grief and appreciation. His struggles, rooted in unhealed trauma and mental health challenges, not a moral failing, illuminate the profound complexities of his experience. While I grieve over the losses and the pain that he carried, there is an enduring appreciation for the moments when he transcended the darkness. Those instances where his voice soared above the pain, where he unabashedly shared love, and where he championed the diversity and beauty inherent in humanity. They serve as poignant reminders of the enduring light within. As I reflect on our shared path, I carry both the dual emotions of sorrow and celebration, a testament to the intricacy of Jarad's life. I'll leave you with this, something Jarad and I both learned on our respective journeys, with the exceptions that it's perfectly okay to not have all the answers. In embracing the discomfort of the unknown, we discover that within uncertainty lies a beautiful exploration of potential, rich with meaning and endless possibility. I invite you to take just a moment to feel into your body. What does it feel like to hold the discomfort of uncertainty, the not knowing, and simultaneously feel the expansiveness of what could be?
I don't know if I have much more to say. The family has spoken, and I feel like it's an altar of uncut stone that I don't want to lay my hand against. It is very normal in these moments to try to understand and embrace the grief that we feel. Just innate in us, the curiosity of exploration, of knowing why, epistemology, the whole understanding of why does everything even happen for a reason. Grief is complex. Some of us in this room are probably still in shock. Some are still angry. Some are extremely saddened. And some are trying to find ways to move on. In the spirit of everything that was and is, the diversity that was Jarad, I want to encourage each and every one of you, as you share stories, hold space for one another, to let the other person have their moment of grief in the way that it comes, to demonstrate that love that even Sean was talking about earlier. We can find solace in connections. When you look left and right of yourself, you will see other human beings created very much in what I believe is the image of God, the divine, the spark of the divine, the universe. We were made for community. We were made for relationship. And like my father-in-law said, let's support one another through the diversity of our emotions. You know, love is what it really is all about. It truly is. True love, enduring love, one that covers all wrongs, that holds space in its kind, one that endures. And I encourage you to have that same fervent love that Jarad would have in his heart, that fervency. Let that spark of who God made him spark into your heart. You know, in the ancient text in Hebrews, there's this verse that says, let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together. We're meeting together now. This is that moment now where we can lean into each other, encouraging one another all the more as you see the day draw near. As Sarah brought up, there are very practical ways to find hope and help right here with therapy, and also in the deep darks of winter, going deep with your spiritual faith. As we come to the close of this service, on behalf of our family, my family, thank you for the shared memories that you all bring. Let's take time to reflect on our hope and our connection that we have. In the rhythmic dance of life, Jarad's essence resonates like the shifting time signatures of this song called Lateralus. Just as the song urges us to embrace the unpredictable, Jarad encouraged us to navigate life's complexities with an open mind and a passionate heart. In the kaleidoscope of the memories we share, his essence echoes the lyrics that remind us to swing on the spiral of our divinity and still be a human. Much like the song's exploration of expanding consciousness, Jarad's intellectual pursuits and insatiable curiosity mirrored the call to keep going. And to see my heart, I decorate it like a grave. He adorned his life with the richness of art, communication, and culinary excellence, embodying the very essence of creative exploration and expression. So as we reflect on this tapestry of his life, we are reminded that in his own unique way, he invited us to embrace the journey, to overthinking, overanalyzing separates the body from the mind. In his passion and immersion, Jarad encouraged us not to be confined by the rigidity of perfectionism, but to revel in the artistry of our endeavors. So let us carry forward the rhythm of Jarad's essence, weaving the memories and connections into the ongoing symphony of our lives. In the spirit of the song, may we spiral out and keep on going, remembering the vibrant hues that Jarad added to the canvas of our shared experience. If you all wouldn't mind, I'd like to end this with prayer. Father, I thank you for each one of your children in this room. The gift that you have for each one of us in each of us. Help us see the tapestry and the point and the gift that you preached and gave in the center of Jarad's heart, which is to be diverse and to weave a tapestry of color and excitement, and not to be dull and settle, for just nominality. Let the mark that he left on us remain. Keep our hearts strong. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you all. Dad, you want to come up? Because I really don't know the logistic piece of the next piece.
I don't. I don't think there is one. Please, if you brought some art that Jared made for you or that you have, please make sure you take it with you when you go. It's a precious thing that we will have for a long time. So please and thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of our lives. Just don't stop. Let's continue to be a part of one another's lives and to reach out to one another when things go dark. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Bye.